And now we are going to talk about MVC, Model View Controller, in Laravel 7. And we will see how these three fits inside the Laravel and where are these available. In the last episode, we saw that we can change the view and return some other HTML by using this kind of routing system. So route define the behavior user interact. So firstly, user interact with slash, that means the base URL, and then we are returning the view. View is just the HTML part, whatever user see is view. So we cover the view part. This is a simple diagram to understand the MVC. So user sees view, so which is this. Okay, so we saw that we can change it also. So if I say user and user is returning home, and then base URL return welcome. So now if I refresh this, because it is a base URL, it return welcome page. And if I say localhost 8000/user, then it's returning welcome view. So now user can easily interact with the views by changing the URL or go to different routes. Now comes the controller. User uses controller, and then controller manipulate the model. That model update the view. But where is these model and controller available? Yes, we know views are inside resources and views directory, that means the HTML. So models are available inside the app, and inside the app you can see we have a user model which comes by default from Laravel. So Laravel 7 is giving us this user.php file. This is a simple PHP class, but we call it model. Why? Because this model interact with database, and that's why we say we manipulate the model, which changes something, we do something on the database, and according to that it return the data to the view. And we will see how we can change all these things. So this is model view controller, but where is controller? Now controller is inside app http controllers, and we have this base controller. Base controller means we never use this controller, but we extend this controller in every other controller we made in the future. Now we know that all these MVC are available inside the Laravel. So let's recap. Model is user model, which is inside app. Controller is inside app http controller, and views are inside resource views. But how user uses all these three? So user can interact, or user can use controller using the routes. So we know that we can create route inside our web.php file. So inside web.php file, instead of returning this, instead of having this closure, we can define a controller name here. So I can simply say user controller. It is recommended that the name with a controller, so that you can easily find that controller. So user controller. And then you need to define which function on this controller you are going to hit whenever user going to visit this URL. So I will say at index. Okay, that's good. But we don't have this controller. We can see on app http controller, we don't have any controller. Now comes our magical thing, which is the artisan command. Let's create another terminal here, and I can say php artisan, and if I hit enter, you can see we have a list of commands we can use with this artisan. So with artisan we have a make controller command which create a new controller class. Okay, so let's clear it out, and I will say php artisan make, and making a controller, so controller, and then it has to be make colon controller, and then the controller name, and we know controller name is user controller. So we just need to create a controller class, nothing else. So php artisan make controller user controller, hit enter, controller created successfully, and you can see inside app HTTP controller you have a new class called usercontroller.php. As I told you before, this user controller class extends controller, which is the base controller, this one. So now this user controller class is extending this controller, and we can create another function as we have defined here, the index function. So I can say create a function called index, and then this is the function we are done with. So we have created the function, but inside this function you can see we are not returning anything. Every function should return something. So let's say return, and I can say welcome, or I can say user controller. I am in user controller. This is good, more descriptive. Okay, so what if the user going to hit this route? What's going to happen? Let's see. So we are here, and we are on localhost/user, localhost 8000/user. If I hit enter, you can see we are having I am in user controller, which is a simple string. Remember, here we are returning a view. Can we do the same thing on the controller? Let's try. Why not? So let's say return view, and I'm going to return a view of home. And once more, if I close this directory, open resources views, you can see we have a home.blade.php, and because we are returning view, we just need to define the name, initial name, not the .blade.php extension. So finger crossed. And what if I refresh this page? I refresh the page and I got welcome home. This means the same thing we are doing here, just like this, having a closure, we can do the same thing on the controller. So what's the benefit of having this separation? By doing this separation, we are making this class responsible for only one thing, defining the route. Because this is a web.php file, so this file only has to be responsible for defining the route. So whenever a user hit this route, do whatever inside user controller at index method. So index method is returning this view. So we have covered the V and C part of MVC. Model part is still remaining. We will see how we can interact with model and how this model is going to play a big role in the journey of Laravel 7.